Two coaches derail on Warri-Itakpe line, no casualties.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on correcting wrong narratives about religious harmony in the country. Part 2.
Well, you know, Jumbai, it's always interesting how international reports sometimes paint a picture that doesn't quite match what's happening on the ground.
Exactly. And you know, the latest example we have now is that the U.S. report on religious freedom in Nigeria, the one the federal government has now firmly dismissed.
True. And the government insists that what we're facing is not about religion, but part of a broader regional fight against violent extremism. And they've been quick to remind everyone that Nigeria protects all citizens regardless of their faith or belief.
Indeed, Victor, and I found that statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs quite telling. It described Nigeria as a God-fearing and diverse nation that thrives on tolerance and inclusion.
And that's a strong reminder of who we are. Yet, it raises a fair question. How do we bridge the gap between how we see ourselves and how others perceive us?
That's the key issue. The government says it is committed to working with partners like the U.S. to promote peace and understanding.
But perception is shaped by facts people can see. So, how do we make sure the world sees the progress that we have made, not just the problems that we are still tackling?
These are issues that inform our focus today. We'll be revisiting a disturbing and false narrative being peddled about religious freedom in Nigeria. If you recall, we discussed this issue a few weeks ago. You know, we'll pick up from there where we left off. And you know, I have to thank you so much for joining us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, the first for the week. I am Juma Yusuf.
And I am Victor, as I also welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, the first indeed for the week. It's been a great weekend, somewhat. Newspaper review comes up in just a moment. But first, let's take the news. I do hope it's comforting with you.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we began a conversation in Narratives about religious harmony and, you know, in Nigeria a few weeks ago, and we are now returning to this issue today. But before we bring in our guests, let's take this background report from our last episode. We roll the experts now.
The bill emanating from outside of the shores of the nation seem to suggest that some other people are even more interested in the welfare of Nigeria. And, you know, that's why it's suspicious.
What was clear is that that figure was a huge exaggeration. Because I've made research around the north. In the last 6 months, in the last 1 year, we don't have a situation, we don't have one state that can tell us, apart from the Yelwaita story in Benue, and then the killings in Plateau. But to a large extent, there is great reduction in the mass killing.
What our enemies want to gain, it is what we are doing. For us to assume it is the Christians that are killing Muslims, or it is the Muslims that are killing Christians, I'm worried and I feel like crying.
Nigerians have a big responsibility. The governments of the country have a huge responsibility. Our local institutions have a huge responsibility. But also our religious bodies and our religious institutions have a huge responsibility to provide the right narratives.
We need education. And that's why I will appreciate NTA, and I will thank them for the work which they are doing. When we were well educated about ourselves, when we understand ourselves, at the end of the day, we discover that some people are coming from outside because they want to use us and they want to use what God has given to us.
All right, many thanks to Timothy Yusuf, who put together that excerpt from our first conversation on religious harmony in Nigeria. Now, let's begin today's conversation, and we have another panel of guests joining us. Let me begin by introducing Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, researcher, political scientist, and public affairs analyst. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, and let me also make welcome Dr. Niyi Akinshiju, Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. We thank you very much for coming.
Thanks so much for having me. Very good morning, Nigerians.
It's good to have you, gentlemen. And also joining us from Kaduna is Pastor James Wuye, co-director, Muslim Christian Interfaith Mediation Center. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Nigeria. Yes, and we also have joining us still from Kaduna, Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq Muhammad, National Mosque, Abuja. Thanks for joining us.
Go ahead.
Okay, joining us via Zoom from Ode Omu, Osun State is Imam Fuad Adeyemi, National Chief Imam Al-Habibia Islamic Society of Nigeria. Thanks so much for joining us again on this conversation.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
I would like your opinion of what you make of Nigeria's strong rejection of the U.S. report on religious freedom. Over the weekend, Trump has been sending some tweets, on the genocide, supposedly, allegedly, genocide in Nigeria, and President Tinubu has also responded. Let me read a little so that you can comment on that. A part of his statement that he issued, he said the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect our national reality, nor does it take into consideration the consistent and sincere efforts of the government to safeguard freedom of religion and beliefs for all Nigerians. Let's have your perspective on that.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be a part of this once again. And good morning to my brothers and friends from Kaduna and the studio there too. And naturally, I was lucky to meet those who wrote this report in some part of the world about 4 or 5 months ago. And they presented this report, that is the report of the United States Commission on Religious Freedom. They presented the report, and I stood up and I asked them, please, where did you get the statistics that you use in this report? They told me, this is parochial. This is one way. We have 36 states in Nigeria. And apart from even that 36 states, you only concentrated on Plateau and Benue. And the places where you concentrated on Plateau and Benue are the places that are mainly one religion that are there. Why? What kind of report is this? With all humility, I rejected the report in that place. The report was not correct. Now, I think what we are doing now, we need to understand ourselves that there was a report by United States intelligence report in around 2013 or 2014, projecting that Nigeria would disintegrate in 2016. And when Nigeria did not get disintegrated, they were not comfortable. I met a particular officer who came and they watched. They used Ilorin, Kwara State as an example. When the then Olusola Saraki left and another person took over, they said it has been projected that Kwara State will get burnt, and that's why it will come. And not a single shot was fired when there was change in transition. Everybody will get disturbed. Everybody will get worried. Nigeria, I've always been telling people, is God owns country. Anybody who plan to bring this country down, the rest assured will be disappointed. That is one. Then, two, you see, people are now going out to say so many things about our country. They go out to say so many things about the situation of the country. I always tell people, and I always tell government, I think our government is not doing enough on this. I'm sorry. The government was supposed to have gotten a kind of a warehouse, a kind of an organization, a kind of a department, or whatever name they want to call it, an agency that will be in charge of religion in Nigeria. With all these lies that some people have been going out because they are looking for money, they are looking for influence, they are looking for recognition. That is why you see them, they move the globe throats because they want to just go and tell lie. There have been a lot of statistical lies that they have been flouting throughout the world that we have been seeing. But because the government, I'm sorry, they were not too keen or too serious about it. One thing in the world that nobody can play with is religion. It's the most sensitive. But when you think that it is not important, this is the result of what we are seeing in this country today. Nigeria, we have an organization that is in charge of tourism, of all what our cultures are. There's another that is in charge of it. We have organization that is in charge, that you harness all the type of sport we have in this country to be able to project to the world. What we all cherish most is religion, whether you like it or not. And the government is closing eye as if that thing is not important. Forget it. This is Nigeria. It's different from any part of the world. So that is why all the people, they are having field days. They are able to go to anywhere and say anything. There is no particular organization that is going to do that. The security, that is just to monitor. They cannot act. So unless the government becomes serious about this issue of religion, that we have a place where we can warehouse all the religion challenges, all the religious problems, all the religious concern that will be in between the government and the people, then between the government and other nations. It is then we'll be able to see something. Foreign affairs do that, which they can do on that because they have 1,001 things on their hand. So if we do not sit down now and do something, then we are waiting at that. Then the issue of CPC. This is not the first time Nigeria has been designated as a CPC country. Remember, even during the reign of the former late General Muhammadu Buhari, may Allah forgive him, the same thing happened. I do not know whether you remember when the dead president visited Trump in his first term, and Trump told him, "Why are you people killing Christians in Nigeria?" And I would have asked him. I wrote a sermon on that and said, where are they killing Christians in Nigeria? Do you know what is happening in Katsina today? Do you know what is happening? Do you know what is happening in Sokoto today? Do you know what is happening in Niger State today? Nobody is talking about that. They're not talking the extermination of Christians in Nigeria. And I always tell the people, if anybody wants to exterminate Christian, it is Enugu they will go and not Maiduguri. They will not go to Sokoto. They will not go to Zamfara because you want to exterminate Christian. If you want to exterminate Christian, their base should have been in all those areas. Look at, of every one Christian that was killed, at least 9 Muslims were killed. Of every one Christian pastor or clergyman that was killed, at least 8 to 9 Muslims were killed. But because the Muslims, 2 things affect us here. The Muslims' approach to death is different from ex people's approach to death. That is one. Then the Muslim approach to the media on death is different from the way other regions see their approach to the media. And that is why it seems and it feels as if it is the Muslims, it is the Christians that they are killing on in
Imam Fuad Adeyemi there. But we thank you very much for your opening remarks, Imam Fuad Adeyemi. Let me get to Pastor James Wuye, who has joined us from our Kaduna studio. And I'm just going to ask right away, you've been involved with interfaith mediation for many years. And what has your experience taught you in all of this about religious tolerance in Nigeria? Yeah, if you can hear me. I'm asking, you've been involved with interfaith mediation for many years. So what has your experience taught you about religious tolerance in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Once again, I want to say I'm glad that I'm on this platform. Number 2, yes, been on this for the past 30 years, building bridges across divided communities, including religious communities and others, state actors and non-state actors alike. Now, coming to the experiences that over the years we have what we call narratives that have been thrown down, pushed down our throats by my perception then, mischievous religious and political leaders. And that narrative has caused a lot of unhealed memories of the perceived injustices of the past. As we speak and generate conflict materials with our participants over the 36 states, we realize that there are narratives that are negative, and if we have to correct that, there are certain pragmatic things that we need to do. Looking at these narratives that are sometimes filtered around our religious beliefs, those beliefs might not be, some of those filtering systems may be faulty based on who is doling out those narratives. So there is a need, again, like we do always say, for Nigerians to think globally as they act locally. And most of those actions are what many religious leaders among our networks have been doing in order to correct that negative and collective memories of the perceived injustices of the past. It's been a while now, but I'm sure we are getting somewhere, and there are many actors around the religious sphere that are doing quite a lot to correct these perceived injustices among both non-actors and state actors. I do recall that about a couple of years, about a year ago or thereabout, there was a convening of a meeting here in Kaduna under the governor of Kaduna for what they call green, looking at desert encroachment and ecology. The meeting veered into what do we want from you, our brothers, the Muslim? What does the Muslim want from the Christians? I think we were able to tick out certain things. But those core value issues were not addressed. And part of this could be what people begin to market negatively. Conflict entrepreneurs begin to market those things negatively. And now it has now generated an excuse for people to begin to say what they are saying generally. And I think we are healing. We are healing in Nigeria. Nigeria is on a healing process, and a lot of good landmarks have been reached, and I'm sure that we are at the climax of really healing totally, where we have north-south dialogue of forgiveness and reconciliation across. As we do that, those narratives will be swallowed under a heart of extending the olive branch leaf to the other, which is peaceful gestures.
You're talking about the past. I have a nostalgic, remembrance of Nigeria, how it used to be without, we grew up without knowing which religion, which tribe, and all that happened in Nigeria. We begin to ask our question. Let me bring in Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq into this conversation now. We begin to ask this question: where did we get it wrong? Where did all this start from? 35 years ago, there was nothing like this in Nigeria. What happened? How did we lose it? So can you tell us what is the reality, of religious coexistence in Nigeria today compared to how it used to be?
See where the problem lies, and these 3 decades that they have spent in this work will be rendered ineffective now with this type of narrative coming from beyond the shores of the country. I'm happy that the pastor has mentioned this conflict entrepreneurs who would leave the shores of the country and go and give wrong statistics and wrong information to others that have now translated into what we are hearing from the United States President trying to prepare and put his army on alert to come and rescue Christians in Nigeria. This will render what has been done in the past for all these years that people have spent in the Muslim-Christian mutual understanding and relations in the country to naught. because it will open old wounds. It will not have any effect on what they have done. It will take us back to where we have for years left, because these Christian mediation activities starting from Kaduna here, and Allah has destined that both of us will be here today to be able to speak to the country through NTA. Before they came on, there were a lot of problems. And before the problems, as you have rightly said, we grew up seeing ourselves as brothers and sisters, seeing ourselves as people, just as we are taught in all our scriptures. We are human beings, and you are only better. You are only better if you are better in character. You are only better than me if you are able to exhibit that you are a better human being than I am, and that you are guided by the principles of your religion. That was how we grew up. In our schools, in our primary schools, in our secondary schools, we lived, we ate, we danced, we played together. There were no differences. In our communities, we stayed in the same place. My neighbor, the next door neighbor, could be a Christian. So we were. But now a phase came whereby everything changed. And some people, because of their personal issues or personal aggrandizement aims, would set us against each other. Now is beyond here. It has gone elsewhere, outside the country. And I wonder if Trump's bombs come, whether they will differentiate between a Muslim and a Christian. If aids are suspended and not coming to Nigeria again, whether the people who would receive the brunt will only be Muslims. I'm surprised that Trump has decided to go on this just after the UNGA presentation by Nigeria recognizing the state of Israel, the state of Palestine. Why is this coming after the UNGA presentation? And why is Trump not looking at what is happening in Gaza? Who are the people on earth today that deserves the assistance of America to liberate them against genocide than the people of Gaza? So what narrative is being communicated here to Nigeria? And we cause this to ourselves because the merchants of conflict have gone there and have presented a false narrative to them, and they are taking this action against us. This will take us back. Just to reiterate what I have started this intervention with, it will take us back. It will not bring us close. It will set what has been done for decades to zero, because it will open old wounds, and that is it. It is for us not to allow the terrorists succeed, because to the terrorists, both Muslims and Christians are unbelievers. When they come, they don't attack anybody. The terrorist bombs also and bullets do not differentiate between a Muslim and a Christian. If they go to the mosque and shot at the imam and the people praying there, they are not looking for Christians. Imam Fuad has given all the statistics and all his points about who bear the brunt as far as this issue is concerned. So America, by taking this posture, is making the terrorists succeed, because once we start fighting amongst ourselves and they are targeting all of us.
Ustaz Mohammed, for your opening remarks. We'll get back to you in the course of the conversation. Let's now come back here in the studio. And I'd like to get to Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. As a political scientist, what's your interpretation of the flurry of statements credited to US President Donald Trump and then the reaction of the Nigerian side?
Well, thank you very much. See, unfortunately, most of us are getting highly emotional about this issue. And rightly so, because they know us to be people that are not given to thinking. We react. We don't look at issues from the base. And that way they are able to trigger us. What Trump has done is to create an alibi, to start an engagement process that is not different from the gunboat diplomacy during colonialism. You remember the Akasa massacre in the Niger Delta? What was at issue? Because local gin was being brewed in Akasa and it was competing with imported gin. So they have to sack Akasa. So this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing now. You know, one thing we fail to understand, these are a bunch of pirates dressed in suits, going about the world, stealing resources, and they use justifications. When they came to Africa and other places they colonized, what did they say? They went on what? Civilizing mission. So how
Civilizing a civilized society.
Yes. How do you civilize people? By bombing them? The same thing America did. They went to Vietnam. I'm laying a context before I come to your question. They said they wanted to save the Vietnamese from communism. So they have to bomb the people they want to save from communism. So what are you saving? Now, let us come back to Nigeria. We have an issue. And what is playing out in Nigeria is economical. It's not religious. It's the framing that we use this religious divide in order to create negative and positive that continue to interact and cause more mayhem. Why did I say it is economic? You remember what is being framed today as clash between Muslims and Christians, or Muslims killing Christians, or Muslims. You know how it started, especially in 1999. It started as indigenous settler problem all over the country. It was not an issue that was happening in Benue State alone. There was a fight in Okigwe involving the Hausa Fulani that were there selling cattle and the Igbo host. It happened in Shagamu. It started in the Middle Belt, and it was who supposed to aspire to public office and who supposed to have access to state posts. And that was how the issue started. And then we started saying that you are an indigene, you are a settler. So an Ogbomosho man in Kano that was born in, say, 1950 and is like 60 years now cannot aspire to become governor of Kano State because he's not an indigene, by the framing of we Nigerians. Now, the other issue again is resource conflict between others and farmers. Now, what is even puzzling to me as a Nigerian is how we came about the framing that farmers are the indigenous people, that is the Tiv, the Birom, the Angas, the Anagutas, and others solely Fulani. So if there is a conflict between other and farmers, automatically it's between Fulani, Muslim, and Christian Tiv or Christian Angas. But do we know that majority of the Fulani, we have Christians among them that are Fulani. We have animists that are Fulani. So how do we come about this narrative that whenever there is any problem, every Fulani person is a Muslim and every indigenous person is a farmer? Now, why I'm raising this question was there was this very particular intervention that was sponsored by USAID. I was part of those that went to Taraba. And what did we go to? What did we went to Taraba to do? The community was brought together, where you have Muslims, Christians, farmers, and others. And guess what we found? Even the indigenous people are others. They have their cattle. The indigenous people, we went to Namnei, we went to Shira, we went to Suntai. And what did the USAID did? How can they come together to resolve their conflict? And they did it under the local chiefs of those communities that I mentioned. So they trained them on conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. So what we did, it is called mediation tent. Now, this is what we know in this country. My great-grandfather was a community leader. And I'm coming back to that issue. And what used to happen is, once others go out, sometimes nature may call. And the other will, that is quite different from driving cattle knowingly into people's farm. Now, this is based on what everybody knows. Okay, the little boy that is adding the cattle needed to obey the call of nature. And then he leaves the animals and decides to go and answer the call of nature. And before he comes back, the animals had already strayed into people's farm. So what do? Wherever you find Fulani, you find their leader. So they look for the Ardo. And every Ardo knew who grazes where. And they would ask him, within 2 days, produce the person that grazes in so place. That is what they did in Shira and Amne. And they will bring the person. Okay, what happened? Well, it is not planned. It is nature call. And then I will decide, and this is what happened. Okay, how do we compensate the farmer? And they settle themselves amicably under NC.
But now that we are here,
yes,
the U.S. president has made statements that are quite telling.
Yes.
The Nigerian side has reacted.
Yes.
What's your interpretation, be it politically, be it in diplomacy?
Yes.
How do you interpret this?
Let me interpret it for you. There is a current fight that is going on globally. And the fight is who controls the world. If you go back to history, as far back as 1904, Alfred John Mackinder propounded a theory that is called the Heartland Theory. He said whoever controls Eurasia controls the world. And he told the West that they should never allow any powers to emerge from Eurasia to challenge the West. That was amplified by Brzezinski, the former U.S. Secretary. And he said that this century was going to pose a serious challenge to the West, especially American leadership, and that they should do everything to ensure one thing, that any nation that is cohesive, that is not looking towards the West, to be shaped by the West, should be destroyed. And he called it a torn state. And this very particular template is what is playing out now. I will explain. A power has emerged from Eurasia, as it is now, China. And then the traditional trade route that was created during colonialism was being weaponized against China, against Russia, against Iran, against North Korea. And then the Chinese are not sleeping, they've gone to work. So they responded with Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative is meant to create alternative trading route and corridor that bypasses the Western control and dominated corridor. For instance, there is a direct train linkage between Tehran and Russia, bypassing Suez Canal that is under the control of the West using Egypt. So now, how does that affect Nigeria? Nigeria has the population. Nigeria has rare earth minerals, is fifth or sixth globally. Nigeria has oil. These three things. Now, the Chinese have come to Nigeria. They are in control of almost 60% of the rare earth minerals that they are processing and selling to America. The Belt and Road Initiative needs Nigeria, whether under the BRICS or any other arrangement. The West doesn't want to lose Nigeria. So what is happening? This genocide is just an alibi, a facade, because Trump is good at one thing. He uses war as a threat to get countries to run to America to come and make concession.
So have we reacted well to it?
Now, that is exactly what I'm saying, that we are too emotional. We don't really sit back to look at things. You remember when President Muhammadu Buhari, it's not coincident, I will give you 3 instances. How did President Jonathan lose the election in Nigeria? You have to understand this. They wanted a military base. And because they wanted a military base, the condition they gave to President Jonathan was, give us a military base and we'll give you arms to fight the insurgents. And Nigerians were not favorably disposed, and the president refused. Do you know what the letter said? That they are concerned about human rights. That is why they did not give us arms. But beneath that very particular human right is the demand for something. Give us military base, we'll give you arms. President Muhammadu Buhari, we were celebrating it. We came to NTA, we were celebrating the whole thing, that is going to save us from the punishment that dollars has imposed on us by agreeing to currency swap between Nigeria and China. What happened? President Muhammadu Buhari was accused. He has to run to America to go and meet Trump. And when he came back, did you hear of currency swap up to today? No. Now, President Bola Tinubu is in a dilemma, and the dilemma is simple. The Russians and the Chinese have taken most of the critical states in Sahel, Niger, Chad, and Mali. So Nigeria ought to be used as a stepping stone or as a battleground to take back
to counter
the Sahel.
Yes.
And now, if they did not create crisis by saying that they are coming to invade us because Christians were being killed, in order to cause that division that Brzezinski talked about, that any cohesive nation that is not looking towards the West ought to be fragmented. And that was what they did in Iraq. That was what they did in Libya.
Look,
and that is the
I say the narrative. I say the narrative that you are creating,
Victor,
and that's why.
Let's pause him, please. Let's bring in Mr. Nee into this conversation. We'll return to him to continue what he has to say. Mr. Nee, over the weekend, after Trump said that they are withdrawing aid, suspending aid from coming to Nigeria. When the genocide was first talked about at the Senate by Ted Cruz, a lot of Nigerians were supporting it. But the moment Trump now came out to say we'll be suspending aid to Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians over the weekend went on social media and said they do not support that. There's nothing like that happening. We're changing the role of misinformation, and social media and fueling wrong perceptions sometimes gives credence to, allegations like that. So how can we begin to turn the trend around?
Thank you very much. Of course, this issue had become such a multidimensional issue. I was actually enjoying the narration by by Dr. Hamisu, looking at the historical context and all that. But for me, where I grew, the culture that contextualized my being had actually made it a bit difficult for me to frame issues around Christian Muslim. That's the truth. When issues come to the public space, some of us are trained to be blind, religious blind about it. And I'm an active Christian, So when this issue came up, understanding the whole concept around neocolonialism and all that, as Dr. Amisi was trying to contextualize, I had to try again to research into what appropriate motivations would have triggered this. One of my findings was that there had been a continuous, huge advocacy and lobby against Nigeria, on this issue of Christian versus Muslim. And that since 2009, there had been an heavy traffic on advocacy, targeted at the U.S. government, to place Nigeria on the CPC list. Well, what interests me is that governments since 2009, had resisted such. The American government had resisted such. And we had had an Obama 8 years government, you know, and of course, when Trump came, we thought we were seeing a thaw, you know, in the relationship between Nigeria and America, especially when it came to arms acquisition. When during that first engagement, he decided to approve what an Obama Democratic government, you know, refused us, the sale of arms. The sale of arms, particularly what's the name of this? Tucano, you know, the Tucano jets. And just after that, after the approval and the acquisition processes that started, then he came out with the CPC thing, you know. And of course, we know that there are processes before a president. A president is not even allowed by the process of the International Foreign Religious Act, you know, Foreign Religious Freedom Act, you know, to make that pronouncement. The pronouncement was actually invested in the Secretary of State, you know. But in that instance, that December 2020, it was the president, President Trump, that made that declaration. But it turned out that they will now have a Democrat come into government just some months after, and under 1 year, we were removed. Nigeria was removed out of that list. Now, some 4 years down the line, the same process had been reenacted. So my immediate reaction is that it may not be a United States of America government's tendency or disposition. This, to me, is particularly a Trump disposition. And the extension may be, perhaps, it's a Republican Party disposition, you know, because we are experiencing this 2 times within 5 years. Under the same personality, who was president between 2016 and 2020, and who is now president between 23 and, of course, the next 3 years in the US. So for me, that is principally a Trump thing. And again, as properly contextualized too, it has been established that we have this dramatic-minded person administering the United States of America. And it's not just dramatic, it could also be deceptive in the way it goes about things. So whereas we have had, some of us, especially those of us who grew up in the academics, understood the fact that you can have leadership at that highest level that can actually deploy sovereign blackmail. And I think what we are experiencing now falls into that.
Sovereign blackmail?
Yes. Okay. We have seen the president of America come out to say he is going to impose 100% tariff, 250% tariffs, and then all he needed was negotiation, actually, you know, to reduce, you know, the tariff and all that. That is not how. That's not how you have diplomatic relationships. You don't have diplomatic relationship by bullying. Yeah. You know, you do not set a target, you know, but increase the bar of that target, waiting for for the other party to come and negotiate for a downward movement of that target. So it's telling us a whole story, a whole narration about this person.
But what beats me is when the tariffs comes, when the aids are suspended, will it only affect other religions and no Christians?
It's not even about that. It won't get to that. It won't get to that. The whole thing is just like as blackmail. Come to the table, let us talk. And for me, it is not even about that whole ecosystem of who controls what and all that. Yeah. That's a marathon. It's a long distance thing. See, Nigeria bought military equipment of close to $400 million from the United States of America in 2024. Approval again had been given this August 2025 for about $345 million, you know, military equipment. And if you do some more work, you will also now realize that the Department of International Trade, United States of America's Department of International Trade, has gone out to engage with the military complex in America to say that there's a huge opportunity in Nigeria, for equipment, training, and all manners of sophisticated military hardwares, So to that extent, Nigeria is actually a waiting game, for the American military
Why
complex.
does it seem that Nigeria struggles from the policy and media perspectives to control its own global narratives?
But I have not seen a sovereign state control. It's a global narrative. The whole thing usually boils down to the disposition of citizens, especially in the age of social media. Historically, Nigeria had been gifted with a robust media, independent media, historically. At no point in time, even during the worst of our military regimes, the Nigerian media had always found a way of standing up, to government or to institutions. And because of that, we have built a story around independence and substance in the media. But unfortunately, we now had this prevalence of social media that allows virtually everybody to come into space and throw all manners of things. And as noted by one of the earlier speakers, conflict entrepreneurs have become a major industry, around the world. At the last count, it was being valued at about $800 billion. And what was it? It started as one no-cost engagement, where foundations across the world, especially in the developed world, find projects and of course ideas to finance, in developing countries. And from time to time, they get allocation of $10,000, $20,000, and I think now it's even up to $200,000, $400,000. And that is why you have military deployment in Borno. At the same time, you have a huge number of NGOs.
Huge numbers.
Those are not self-funded NGOs. They are funded by what I call the metropolitan capitals of the world, And there's a dispersal in terms of ideas, in terms of themes to be funded, It includes gathering data. This data that had also become problematic for us. There are some people that go out of their way to cook data so as to justify funding, in 2022, there is this general belief that there was up to 5,000 killings in Nigeria specifically related to Muslims or Christians. And I did the background. Another figure told me that 3,000 killings, 3,000 plus killings, general results of terrorism in Nigeria. And I was like, okay, so let's juxtapose this. Terrorism is all-embracing. It's a composite aspect, of terrorism. So you have religious, you have criminality, kidnapping, and all that. Then you have these figures, especially advanced by this other side, of talking about more than 5,000, specifically on Christian, Muslim, or religious conflict. So the important thing, actually, is for us Nigerians, and as you noted, when it became a need for us to self-defend, when the U.S. President said he was going to withhold hate, and especially when he said he was going to come shooting, gun ablaze. And for me, I take personal exception to the fact that he described Nigeria as a disgrace.
Disgrace, yes.
No. There's a need to start calling out this gentleman. Perhaps he has this general belief, I think it comes from an aristocratically, wealthy, background. And I'm just using that aristocratically because, of course, there's no aristocracy in the U.S., but we know that He is
There's the upper class.
he is a beneficiary, you know, of a wealthy family, and he has a way of looking down at growing, developing
So
countries.
all of this is about framing, basically, and I've heard him try to, you know, frame
No,
the
it's-
narrative.
he has
You've
not-
also
he has
done
not
yours.
properly done
But I'd like to
good
get back to
contextual-
Imam Fuad Adeyemi, and I'm wondering, you are well traveled, and is it possible for Nigeria to use cultural diplomacy to, you know, change the narratives about the country itself?
Imam Fuad
If
is
Imam
not-
Fuad Adeyemi is not there, can I take this to Ustaz Siddiq Mohammed to help with this?
Thank you very much. Nigeria has been using that because we have a great number of diaspora staying in the United States and projecting the image of Nigeria. Nollywood, you'll be surprised, is doing a lot to sell our culture, to use that soft diplomacy in stating exactly what Nigeria is and how Nigerians are living and what we are proud of as Nigerians. Yes, we are using soft diplomacy to communicate that, but a situation whereby, as I have said earlier, some of us will speak against ourselves. All these things that are happening, yes, I have listened to the perspectives and positions within the studios there in Abuja regarding what we are discussing, but we will not be oblivious to the fact that whatever this Senator, Ted Cruz and co. are doing in relation to the Emperor Trump, who has seen us as a disgraced nation, has its roots, or as somebody has mentioned, the last speaker there, the NGOs are also given false statistics on what is happening on ground. The point is they are getting something from Nigeria to be able to build on whatever they are projecting, whatever they are planning, whatever they are doing, whatever appellations they are given to the country and to the citizens of this country has its roots from what some of us have communicated to them. The false information that we have imputed to this country on its image abroad. So yes, back to the question, soft diplomacy will do well, and now everything is falling to place, create some noise, some commotion within a targeted area, and the leaders of that area would now rush to you, sit down, negotiate for your own benefit. Whether we like it or not, the next power is coming up. No amount of drama or saying things against a country, creating lies and so on, will prevent that power from coming up. And the Quran says it's the vicissitudes of time. One would lead, another one will fall, another one will rise. Whether you like it or not, when your time comes to leave the stage for another world power, it will be. There is nothing that will prevent that. China is coming. China's presence is everywhere. It's felt within Africa. We've been neglected for long, and they are here, and they have their own programs for the country. The doctor there has spoken about the Belt and Road program. It's a China program that also uses its own soft diplomacy to exert its authority and to show its presence in the countries that it is visiting. So yes, another power is coming. Let Trump accept the fact that staying on the stage is not permanent. Before America, there were others. After America, there will be others. And after those others, there will be others. May God bring us to a time that even Nigeria would be on that world stage as a superpower.
superpower.
Amen to that prayer. I say a big amen to that. Pastor James Weir is listening to all this conversation taking place now, and we all know that no empire lasts forever. So what has been the most successful, according to you, interfaith efforts in promoting peace as, co-director of the Muslim Christian Interfaith Mediation Center? What kind of message are we sending to Nigerians of both faiths to live together in peace? Because we've been living together in peace. All these things we see is just insurgency, kidnapping, and all that. I cannot remember a time when we had a religious riot. For quite a while it has been off. What we're seeing now is some unscrupulous person trying to destabilize this country, and lobbies are out there making money, lobbying so that Nigeria can fall. So what kind of message do you have, for a successful interfaith living in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I will also like to react a little to the what we call soft diplomacy. With every sense of humility, my colleague and I, Imam Muhammad Noor Asafa, have traversed the length and breadth of the universe, up to New Zealand, talking at the Christchurch, giving an example for Nigeria. Nigeria has healed. And now we have this story. It's like the saying, medicine man, heal thyself. It is quite discouraging to have Nigeria being spoken of in this manner. But I want to tell you that the diaspora, some civil society organizations like ours, has always painted Nigeria in the light, the good frame, and also talked about the successes we are having. Now, when you come about success, I do recall that in 2002, Kaduna signed what they call Kaduna Peace Declaration of Religious Leaders. And since the signing of that document, Kaduna has remained peaceful and calm, and development has enshrined. And then, of course, the government of Kaduna now is building on that. There was a period where we were actually jittery over some of the pronouncements around Kaduna. But now healing is holding and healing is deep. Now, how do we escalate this on the national platform? How do we escalate this at the international platform? And let me also say another huge success in Nigeria is when Kaduna, Plateau State declared what they call a forgiveness and reconciliation day. 7 February is supposed to be a bank holiday in Plateau State. And of course, during the era of Simon Lalong, that was signed and that was pronounced, and a garden was created. These are local initiatives. You go to Yelwan Shandam, after the intervention we had, there will be fighting in some part of Plateau State, but the Yelwan Shandam Peace Declaration held, and there is no fighting. You can check that out. So these are diaspora, this exporting Nigerian culture has been on. We were partly responsible for bringing healing in Kenya. You can Google that out. An African answer. Nigerian religious leaders going to address political challenge as far as in Burnt Forest, Eldoret, in the Rift Valley of Kenya. So there are examples all over. What I feel we should do in countering this kind of narratives and having an inclusive narrative of interfaith theology of communication, where people like my colleague and the other colleague in Oshun now can begin to engage. When we engage, if our home front is good, then nobody will have I think what I'm trying to say, nobody will have that space to begin to say negative things about the country Nigeria.
Thank you, Reverend James Wuye. Thank you very much. We would talk more about your proposal when we return from this break. Please don't go away. All right, thank you very much for staying with us. If you've just joined in, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and we've been discussing correcting the narrative regarding the mischaracterization of Nigeria as religious intolerant. But we have messages that have come in, which we'll just take before we continue this conversation. And from here, I have Nandom Wuyep from Jos. He says, if we truly love and fear God, we will definitely obey him. My tears should be your concern and yours mine. It is sadly obvious that we are just religious. It is a wake-up call for us as a people to stop pretense and hold each other's hands. God bless Nigeria, he says. And from Linus in Lagos, good morning to all in the studio. One of the first and fundamental ways to correct the wrong narrative about religious harmony in Nigeria is allowing every major religion practice to exist like in every function organized by the public. Christians and Muslims should be called for opening or closing prayers side by side, especially places like far northern states of Nigeria. But we have a national prayer though. And from Dr. Gora, good morning to you great people. There has been a lot of emotions, misinformation, and a lot after Trump tweet. I have to admit, Dr. Hamisu has made a lot of points that are clear and evidence-based, making a lot of sense to what is happening in the world, not just Nigeria. Please, the Reverend from Kaduna keeps saying correcting the past, and so I want to know, has there been any time we had Christian genocide in any part of Nigeria? Thank you. And finally, from Binta Suleiman here in Abuja, good morning, great Nigerians in the studio. Both Christians and Muslims in Nigeria seem to be speaking in harmony. It's about time. I love it. Jumai?
Yes, and I have some that came in too, and let me begin with Comrade Patrick Okoli. He is a human rights activist from Delta State. He said, Nigeria's true story is one of religious coexistence. For generations, Christians, Muslims, and traditional believers have lived, worked, and built communities together. Yet misunderstanding and misinformation often paint a different picture. Most conflicts in Nigeria are not about faith, but about politics, poverty, and those who use religion as a tool for division. Our duty is to correct false narratives by promoting dialogue, respect, and truth. While we celebrate our shared humanity, we protect our unity and strengthen our nation. And another one said, without a name, Imam Adeyemi has advised and made key points. Nigerian government should apply a common sense to ensure correcting wrong imagination our Muslim and Christian leaders are painting. However, according to Imam Adeyemi's opinion, government should have a ministry that will be actively coordinating affairs of religion in this country. And from Yusuf in Bauchi, he said, good morning, Nigeria. We as Nigerians have to understand that we are all Nigerians. The lives of both Muslims and Christians matter, and in brotherhood we shall stand. It is the responsibility of our government to protect the lives and property of Nigerians. President Trump can't treat a sovereign nation like ours and call us names. We should unite against external interference. Yusuf from Bauchi. And Lawrence from Abuja said, good morning, crew. Thank you for the good job you're doing. Please remind them to answer the question, where did we get it wrong? And where did it all started? Because we grew up without any difference, we celebrate Christmas and Salah together without discrimination. That's Lawrence from Abuja. Abu Amisu, you've listened to some of these comments and statements that have come in. Where did we get it wrong? Where did it all start? We grew up together without differences, waiting for Christmas food and waiting for Salah food. You know, the taste is quite different from any other food, you know.
I think we got it wrong on two fronts. The first one is our refusal to punish crime and the politicization of criminal acts and activities. I was opportune to work on some documents under the Northern Governors Forum, chaired by the former governor of Niger State, former Governor Babangida Aliu. You know, there was this committee, the chief servant. There was this committee on security, peace, security, and healing for the 19 northern states. And we got documents as far back as during colonial era. The difference between colonial era and post-colonial Nigeria was when there are issues and there are commissions of inquiries, they have done their jobs, and then there is a white paper, they will implement it. But during post-colonial Nigeria, what was happening is they used the panel to buy time, thinking these issues will fizzle out. Perpetrators are not punished. That creates a sense of what? Impunity. And the people we are referring to today as conflictpreneurs, that is how they emerged. Because they have this sense of impunity that they can do anything and nothing will happen. So that we began to use our differences to canvass for votes using what? Exclusion. Advanced countries that we were talking about, what did Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore? He said he wanted to build a multicultural society. So when he built a new city, he makes sure that your neighbor as a Muslim is Hindu worshipper, the next person is a Buddha worshipper, the next person is a Christian. And then they form them into what? Like neighborhood community. So you are forced to do what? To work together. By doing what? By working for each other's interests. And I tie it to what is happening now. As a good Christian or a good Muslim, right? Even the communists, they have this saying that they came for the Pentecostal, I did not speak because I'm not one. They came for the Catholic, I did not speak because I'm not one. They came for the Catholic, I did not speak because I'm not one. When they eventually came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me. Now, if what we are doing in Nigeria, right, I don't have any issue with the Christians that push this agenda up to where they push it to. Because if the Muslims are not concerned to push for the stop of the kidnapping and the killings that are happening in Zamfara, in Katsina, then you should not have problems with those that are concerned with their own people. But what I would love to see as Nigerians, we are all one. So if you find it abhorrent and then distasteful that your own members are being killed, you will not take it. I think you should sympathize with your neighbor who is a Muslim that is being killed too, so that collectively we can advocate for each other's interests. Then if we do that, the narrative that will go out will be Nigerians are under siege and they are being killed every day, and Christians and Muslims are working towards stopping it. But that is not the case. So I will tie it to when we start implementing neoliberalism. Neoliberalism, and this is the crisis we're having today. Neoliberalism said you pursue your own interest. Whether it is at the expense of collective interest, it doesn't matter. And that is why today, even in public offices, if I'm saddled with the responsibility of providing hospital and I'm to take 10% of that money and do a substandard job, provided it will give me comfort, I will gladly take the 10%. So now what we have in Nigeria is everybody pursuing their own individual or group interest. And that is what has played out. Where you have that report coming from Benue and Plateau, which is predominantly Christian, right? And they're pursuing their own interests. Just the way the politicians are pursuing their own interests, just the way the police are pursuing their own interests by taking whatever. And this is what is happening. So we lost it because those we need to punish, we are not punishing them. And then secondly, we reduce avenues for collective protection of our interest to individual pursuit of what? Our own interest. So if today I will have to compromise and give information to America for just $30,000 US, I will do it gladly. And then I will come back and I will say I am rich. But I am undermining the country. I'm undermining everybody.
Of time completely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me quickly get to Nia. We have just a few more minutes to run. But I'm trying to get how do we build a consistent, fact-driven national communication strategy that shows Nigeria as a peaceful, multi-faith nation that we are.
Yeah, it's a journey. All institutions of government responsible for dispersal of information should take the lead at every point in time. We should, as much as possible, not be reacting to issues in the public space. There should be that lead initiative by institutions of government. And I think we have not been using third-party endorsement, third-party communication channels, for government efforts. There have been people who have been in government, who are retired, still respected, still trusted. We need such respected voices, as it were, to intervene from time to time, so that it becomes an enhancement of the communication effort of the government, as it were, and should not be actually limited to federal government alone. Nigeria is a constituent of 36 states plus one. We should have other forms of engagement at the local level, so that we are not just talking to ourselves in Abuja.
Thank you, Dr. Akisuju.
Yes, we have
Imam Fuad Adeyemi is back.
Imam Fuad Adeyemi is back, I believe.
Go ahead.
Imam Fuad, are you there? Okay, you've listened to.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, you've listened to the messages that we read out here in the studio, with some of them commenting on what you said. So now that we have reached this stage and the president has, replied to the United States government, so what message does this reputtal from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu send to international observers, who are watching what is going on, and how do we begin to find solutions to this? What do we expect in the next few days or in the next few weeks?
Cannot go for emergency solution now. The government should have a long-term plan for this program. I don't know whether you are hearing me. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. So the government should actually now be more proactive. One, we should not worry about the threats of Trump, because this is not the first time they are saying that. If you listen to what everybody has said, there is an underlying reason for all this. And by God's grace, one of those who believe so much in Nigeria's greatness that no threats can do us anything. Then two, we need to define who are the religious leaders. I've always been saying this. Is it somebody because he has a mosque in his house and he can now go to anywhere and now say he's a religious leader? Or somebody who just decided and say God has spoken to him from coming out from the toilet and has gotten a church, he now says he's a religious leader. We need to define who is a religious leader in this country. Then thirdly, you ask one question that do we get it wrong? We got it wrong when we began monetization of religion. When money became the aim and the attraction of all the, and that is where, when we did it wrong, where everybody sees that anybody who could not get work, the only thing is that you become a clergy person, money will now be coming, influence will be coming, and that is why everybody can go and do anything to go and say it. The government should also now be more proactive. We cannot leave this thing in the hands of the quack. Or we cannot leave this the issue of our country to manage the way we relate in the hand of the people who have only their own personal interests. We should understand that Nigeria is greater than any other person. If we come together and if our government has to do something quick now, that we must be able to realize that our country is more important. When we bring people together, the government should now be serious and create what I mentioned the other time, a kind of an organization, any name they want to call it, so that we'll be able to monitor ourselves, so that we'll be able to guide ourselves, so that we'll continue to enlighten ourselves. Before anything becomes escalated like this, we'll have gotten an answer to this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Imam Fuad Adeyemi. Let me take a very quick run to Reverend James Wuye. And I'm wondering, what more can faith leaders do to ensure that issues that are political and ethnic are not mislabeled as religious conflicts?
Thank you very much. Religious leaders have the strongest platform ever you can think. Nigerians are very religious. Number two, every Sunday we have a general assembly. Every Friday we have a general assembly. Whatever we say there, our followers take it. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I will be speaking to people from 56 countries of the Commonwealth, young people. These are platforms that ordinarily people don't have. My colleague and I are the recent inaugural recipient of the Commonwealth Peace Prize, and we are glad President Tinubu endorsed it, and that's why we are giving. It is by governments of countries. If they don't honor religious leaders, we wouldn't have been there. So one, let there be a North-South dialogue for religious leaders to deal with the collective unhealed memories. Two, there is a document there, somewhere in government, where religious leaders came together, delegated by Sultan Abubakar. A lawyer came, Khan sent her own lawyer, and they developed what we call Religious Tolerance and Hate Speech Bill. I think that bill should become an executive bill to begin to gag some of our people who do not know what to say, and they say it, and it causes problems. Except we begin to prosecute people who cause violence in our nation, this impunity may continue. So I look forward.
Pastor James, thank you. Would like Ustaz Abubakar in 30 seconds to also respond to the question Victor asked. In 30 seconds, please.
Why are you keeping him up?
Seconds, please. Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq. Okay, let's return to the studio. Yes.
I wanted to say that those that are celebrating, that they are the ones that push out this narrative, and that America is coming to finish Nigeria. We want to tell them that there are those that still love Nigeria, who do not hate Nigeria, and will do everything to safeguard Nigeria, because Nigeria is all that we have.
Okay. Mr. Nee, in 30 seconds, let's have your final words. How do we move forward? How do we bring to contact?
I've never stayed more than 2 weeks outside Nigeria throughout my life. If I had cause to travel out of this country, maximum 2 weeks, I am back. And that tells me, and I find it actually uncomfortable staying for so long outside the country. So for me, Nigeria is the ultimate. The peace of Nigeria is the foundation of my prosperity. And I think that is what all Nigerians should adopt. And there is nowhere in this world where you live, that you can compare to this country. Whatever may be our deficiencies, our limitations and all that, this is a great country. We believe in it. And I know millions of Nigerians believe in the greatness of Nigeria.
Indeed. And let's bring him Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq for his final words in 30 seconds, please.
Thank you very much. Let us look at the example that Katsina has set and Shinkafi, because if the genesis of all this is about insurgency and banditry, these places have given us an example, and we have seen some quiet and peace in those two communities, because it's a local problem and local solutions were sought and worked out. They engaged the bandits on their own with the assent of the governor, but the state government not involved. The local communities were there. The chairman of the local government was there. So they were able to reach an understanding, and peace is reigning. So if other communities like that will look at it locally and address it locally, we may have more examples of Katsina and Shinkafi, and peace will reign.
Local solutions to local problems. Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq Mohammed from the National Mosque here in Abuja. Thank you so much for your contribution. Pastor James Uye, Co-Director, Muslim Christian Interfaith Mediation Center. They all joined us from our Kaduna studio, and we appreciate your input into this conversation. Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, researcher, political scientist, and public affairs analyst, as always. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And Imam Fuad Adeyemi, National Chief Imam Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society, joined us via Zoom from Odeomu in Osun State. Thank you so much for your contribution, though your network has been a little bit shaky. We appreciate you. Dr. Nia Kisuju, Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Gentlemen, we appreciate you all. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks so much for your time. I am Juma Yusuf.
And I'm Victor Azu. I'll see you again tomorrow.